Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
You're the owner of a small business, which means you're also the tech guy, and HR, and personal assistant, and head honcho, and intern. You could use another pair of hands, like the experts you'll find at Verizon Small Business Days, April 21st through 27th. Get a free tech check, special deals, and more. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness to book your appointment. Verizon Business.
Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
For every veteran, there is a story about a calling to serve, to fight for the freedoms of the American people. And every story has a struggle, a sacrifice, and invisible wounds. Warrior Watts programs help veterans recover from PTSD and invisible wounds through exercise, nutrition, and connecting with other veteran leaders. It is estimated that 22 veterans die each day by suicide, and another 30 veterans die each day by substance abuse. These are preventable deaths. Warrior Watt is committed to fighting PTSD through fitness, nutrition, and community.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, Stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
In a world that thrives on chaos, 2 voices So reach up over your shoulders and yank down on those harness straps. We are less than a week to the clash at Bowman Gray, 3 weeks to Daytona. But tonight, we are going live with Cagney, with Lacey, and the ToosDay Crue. So bring your stuff together and join them as they have great guests and the ToosDay Crue. All right. The ToosDay Crue is here, hosted by Stephen LaMonica and Jake Collin. It is a Misfit Nation production that brings powerful stories of grit, resilience, and leadership to life. Stephen is a business leader and YouTube consigliere, ensures the show runs smoothly, providing real-time feedback and maintaining discipline during live broadcast. Jake, a 25-year Army veteran and former EOD tech. We call him Hurt Locker. We call him Lacey. Offers deep insights from his extensive service, which includes multiple combat deployments and VIP missions around the globe. Together, they welcome guests from diverse backgrounds to share their journeys, inspiring listeners with stories of overcoming adversity and leading with purpose. Whether you're tuning in for the insightful discussions or to enjoy Stephen's passion for NASCAR or Jake's anecdotes from his farm in Kentucky, the ToosDay Crue delivers a unique blend of entertainment and inspiration every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ToosDay Crue.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
An introduction.
Good evening. What an introduction. Yes, it was. How you doing this evening, Stephen?
I'm good. You?
Good. What'd you have good for supper?
Just some meatballs.
Yeah. I was going to get a meatball sandwich today for lunch, but I opted for a stromboli.
And you said that you didn't work too well when you got home. But
No.
we won't talk about that here.
But Mrs. Holland whipped up an amazing rabbit stew, so that's going to be for supper right after we finish the show.
That sounds fantastic.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. Hey, you got a better chance to talk to our guest a little bit this evening. You wanna introduce him before we bring him in?
Okay, well, one of two, Alex Gendzier. He's a partner at Seyfarth Shaw LLP. He's in Veteran Affairs, and he collaborates with Rob Sarver on a book, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Okay, and my understanding, Rob's going to be joining us a little bit later.
Yeah, Rob's running a little bit late. He's a former Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 3. He completed 3 tours in support of Operation Iraq, Operation Freedom. Decorations include Bronze Star Medal, Combat Device, Oak Leaf Cluster. We can go on and on with his achievements. He's MBA from Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business and co-founder of the Servius Group. And this is what we're going to talk about tonight.
Well, shoot. Let's get him in here.
Good evening, Alex.
Good evening. Great to be with you guys.
Good to be with you. How are you doing this wonderful evening?
Fantastic. We feel incredibly lucky and grateful. Today is the publication date of our book, Warrior to Civilian, the Field Manual for the Hero's Journey.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Awesome deal. Stephen gave a little bit of a bio on you. Didn't really say too much. Why don't you just start from wherever you want to start and take us up to right now and let our listeners know who you are.
Awesome. Thank you very much for this chance and this time to talk together. So I'm the civilian part of Rob's and my partnership. If you forgive me, Rob had 7 tours in 9 years when he was most recently on active duty as a SEAL. So he was never home. And as you mentioned, he's a highly decorated combat veteran. I am the civilian part of our partnership, although I like to boast I'm a proud military dad. I'm a lawyer by day, and this book and the passion of serving veterans and their spouses and families has become our dominant cause and focus on service. Rob and I met while we were both working at the same fund. I'm their general counsel, and he was a business executive. And we just started talking about life and life transitions. We both have had them. And Rob has been, since he got out, extremely dedicated to veterans and the difficulty of their transition. And every year he's mentored 10 to 15 veterans, which, if folks know what is involved in taking that seriously, it's quite a commitment. Yes. From my end, I wanted my older son, when he joined up, because of my sense of the seriousness of his sense of mission to the country, that he'd be in for a while. And it's quite possible he'll be in when I'm no longer here. I wanted to give him a memo of the 10 things he should know when he got out. And Rob and I started talking on it and collaborating about it. We started interviewing veterans. We got to some famous flag officers. And suddenly these personal devotions each of us have had became part of a much bigger cause, a much bigger sense of duty, frankly, a much bigger sense of opportunity, because there's no book that covers the landscape or is a field manual in the way ours, we believe, has accomplished. So that's a bit of background about us and how we got here.
Okay. Do you want to start covering, talk about the book and start covering the 10 things that we should all know, or you want to talk about some other stuff that you all do and wait on Rob to get here?
Let's dig into it.
All right. Let's dig in. Let's take it first scoop.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. This is a really important topic. We did research for about 5 years. We interviewed about 200 veterans and probably 100 others, professionals and experts about every kind of category or phase of this life transition. This momentous life transition out of the military to civilian life. And we saw patterns develop, and we saw different topics that we thought could really be addressed. Couple of quick observations. I don't know, Jake, if I'll get to 10, but you can keep score and let me know how I do.
Okay.
I think the first thing we saw was that almost universally, most veterans and their spouses do not plan in advance enough, do not prepare in advance. In our sense of it, it takes 12 to 24 months before you get out, while you're in, to really do this thoughtfully and effectively for yourself and for your family. A lot goes into it. One very wise veteran told us, it took me 100 cups of coffee before I could have some orientation about where I wanted to live, what kind of industry I wanted to work in, what kind of job I wanted to have. That's all about preparation. What was also startling to us was that there's no book that covers spouses. There's some wonderful articles. There's a couple of great podcasts and blogs, but there's no book that does the kind of scientific research over a prolonged period of time to develop patterns and see and receive the insights of spouses about their transition. So point number 2 is, this is a team sport if you got a spouse. And by the way, we use spouse for any kind of partnership or whatever you want to call it. We're not picky. It's someone significant in your life. This is a team sport. And what brought us to this was 4 years into it, one of Rob's former teammates said to us when he was reviewing our manuscript, because every month practically we'd send it out to folks and get their input and say, is this helpful? Is this any good? If it sucks, tell us why. We want it to be the best possible thing it can be. And he said, guys, great book, but what's the matter with you? You don't cover spouses. Spouses are the backbone of the military. Military spouses are the backbone of our country. So that really hit us, that we had failed at that point. And we spent the next year focusing on that and how it integrates to every phase of this transition. I would say point 3 is an image came to us that this is a transition that, of all life transitions, this is among the most challenging. Not saying it's the most in the world, but it is, particularly if it is not planned for. The image we had is like it's stepping off from the world of the known and the comfortable off the cliff into potentially an abyss of uncertainty and the unknown world. Other things came from that, but it was a realization that was startling. We've had tremendous input and developed tremendous friendships and relationships. Tom Satterley, who's a very impressive guy who retired as Command Master Sergeant of Delta. You may know him. He has a foundation in Tennessee and has written a book. His wife has written a book about returning and dealing with trauma. He was portrayed in the movie Black Hawk Down as one of the leaders, one of the heroes of that battle. His point to us was when he speaks to veterans and they're having a hard time, he says, in the military, we trained 10 to 15x for every 1 hour or every X on a mission in combat. What have you done to train for this mission? And we found that a powerful insight. Another close friend of ours, Commander Kurt Cronin from the SEAL teams, had several revelations to us that he shared and was really incredibly powerful about him revealing his own life and his own journey. His point was a lot of folks in the military think civilian life is going to be easy. It's going to be easier than the military. Mind you, this is a guy that retired after 20 years of continued combat. And his point was, it's no easier. It's just a challenge on a different terrain. Again, you have to prepare for it. So how does this translate? Well, you need frameworks for reintegration. And we found a Vietnam vet who became a therapist named Mike Glick, who's a powerful man, who developed different ways, different theories of reintegrating into civilian life. To be honest, what was most fascinating was they were based on theories that came from ancient times. And we soon found a doctor from Boston who was a VA doctor, dealt with Vietnam vets, who developed theories of reintegration that came from ancient works, ancient Greek writings. Dr. Edward Tick, very much the same. And from these things, we developed frameworks for how veterans and spouses should think about these things. The next major topic, ticking them off quickly here, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about from these things, is...
Well, here, hey, hang on a second before you go into that next one. We got a question that has come in. We have a question that has come in from a listener. It's from Out There Flapping. You state that you spoke to senior officers about transition. The majority of officers make it with little issues, while it is enlisted of all ranks that kind of struggle. What enlisted folks did you speak with?
Probably about 150. The majority of our input was from enlisted. And it's a great question, but I would say, with respect, the range of experiences, difficulty, challenge, or not, is not really dependent on rank. In fact, if I can give an example that goes counter with great respect, because I never served, I never had the honor of serving, to your listener, the enlisted guy or gal that's been in for a couple of years tends, on a percentage basis, not to have the kind of challenge of someone that's been in for 20 years, who has their whole sense of the world, how they fit into it, a deeper sense of purpose and identity. That's a different kind of thing. The majority of veterans are, of course, enlisted, and the majority of folks that have difficulty with this are enlisted. So it's a great question, and there's a lot of truth to it, but it's a complex topic. And I hope your listener is not offended by my response.
Okay. I'm sure if they were, they'll let us know.
I also have a question. You talk to the enlisted, talk to them, talking about the military wives. What about the children that their parents, father, mother, gone for 6, 8, 10 years, and all of a sudden they come back and your kid's grown up. How do you get them to adjust into that? I left when my daughter was this big, and I came back, and she's a woman now. You know,
it's an enormous topic. It's a troublesome topic. Let me focus on one narrow piece of it. There's about 3.5 million children in the United States that have so-called secondary PTSD from their veteran parents. That's an astonishing number. It's often undiagnosed. It's clearly often untreated. 60 Minutes ran a special on it, but we've been studying this, and with respect to 60 Minutes, didn't need for them to tell us this. They just publicized it, and God bless them for doing that. Children are, of course, the most vulnerable in this. They're not adults. And they're the ones that move constantly with the families every 2 years. Rob himself experienced that. His father was a senior Air Force officer. And this transition has to be thought of, in our opinion, and Rob and I are both devoted fathers, most significantly. And our chapter on spouses and families covers it.
Okay. All right. Let's keep ticking them off then.
Let's keep rolling. The next topic are the series of the wounds of war, visible or invisible. And when we began our journey, the guy that really put us on the map and really pressed us hard was General McChrystal. And he said to us, guys, you've got something here, but unless it's practical, unless you give practical guidance, and it's not going to be worth anything. So we approached the 7 to 8 major aspects of healing the wounds of war as much as we could from a practical perspective. So we got the input of the best doctors and therapists in the country about the different topics. And we went through a long research period. And the short of it is there's a lot of different kinds of wounds, and some of them just are not so easy to heal. And we know that. We attempt to give the best advice we've gotten from folks that work with them. When it comes to things that veterans can do, we felt that the image we had was that if you don't address these things, for example, if you don't unpack your experiences from combat, if you put them in a box because you have to keep on moving while you're deployed, but when you come home, you don't unpack it from your assignment or from deployment. It's like you're carrying around an extra 50 pounds of depression or difficulty or trauma in your rucksack. And at some point, that becomes a part of you. It seeps into your body. There's tremendous research. There's a book called The Body Keeps Score about how the body absorbs trauma. And unless you deal with these things, about the categories of things that you can deal with, when you come back to civilian life, you're making your journey home that much harder. Okay. I'm summarizing about 10 chapters and 5 years of research. And you guys can dig into it. Your listeners can hit me with questions, and Rob when he arrives very shortly.
I'm definitely, probably as soon as we get off here, I'm probably going to order a copy of the book because you're going to tell us where we can go to get it. So,
yeah, we'll do that more than once. You can get it on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
We're not making a dime off this book, so I say this as a public service announcement, but our publisher, God bless him, didn't print enough, so our book is selling out. We've been number 1 on Amazon on pre-orders, and today, our launch date, we're the top seller on Amazon. So if folks want it, the book is called Warrior to Civilian. It's got Sarver and Gendzier, our 2 last names, as the authors. Also, you can go to our website, heroes-journey.net, to order the book, but also we have annexes on the book and lots of other information on that website. And we are very much devoted to hearing veteran stories, and we invite veterans and their spouses to tell us their stories.
Okay.
In the intro to your podcast, there was a reference to purpose. We have several chapters on how do you refine purpose in life. And this is if you were to say to me, what's the number one issue about this momentous life transition? It is the struggle, the challenge, the opportunity to find new purpose after the military. And we recognized from our interviews that there were many ways to do that. It's not one size fits all. The story that became the mantra for our book that's in our subtitle is this idea of the hero's journey. And it became one of many, but one very powerful way for veterans and everyone to think of, to reconceive of their lives. What was really interesting was when we interviewed General McChrystal, at the end of the interview, I said, General, I hope you don't mind, but we have come to believe that the hero's journey is a powerful way of looking at these topics. And to his credit, he's one of the most utterly decent people I think we've ever met. Incredible leader. He said to us, guys, just stop. I don't do the touchy-feely stuff, okay? So just stop with that. But let me tell you, the hero's journey and the story of Odysseus in Homer's Odyssey is every warrior story. It's every person's story. He then began to recite chapter and verse way beyond what we could have imagined of the Odyssey. And here's the really short version of it. Our book explains it and unpacks it. The hero's journey began as a way of looking at these epic tales from thousands of years ago till today, like Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. And it basically broke them down into patterns that were in every story. It's kind of incredible. There's the call to adventure, where you leave your known world of the civilian world. For veterans and military folks, you join the military. You answer that call of adventure. You answer the call of your country. You go through, in this second phase, tremendous challenge, difficulty, loss, wounds, sacrifice, grieving. You grow. You have to grow. You have the chance, not everyone does it, a bigger, stronger version of yourself, more aligned with your sense of purpose in the world. The third phase is when you come home, the return. Again, these are common patterns. And I'll get to the point in just a moment. When you come home, if you have won your last momentous battle or series of challenges, the gods of ancient Greece give you a magic potion to sustain you as a symbol of your achievement and as a way of calling upon that strength. In today, in kind of popular, new age ways, it's referred to as flow moments. You can tap into these powerful moments. And that's exactly what it is. The challenge for Odysseus, who was a warrior, was how to come home and bring all of the growth and experience from his challenges of fighting to get home with his civilian life. Any veteran recognizes that off the bat. The way that we adapted this theory of literature in a way we think is novel is that the challenge and the opportunity for veterans or non-veterans, for me, is to relook at your life, to reframe the images of your life in this way. Things then fall into place. You begin to see, if you're lucky, that some of the great difficulties of your life didn't happen to you, they happened for you. It allowed you to grow. Again, you have a chance to look at these things, and some of them are real tough, so we don't say this lightly, to become stronger and more of who you're meant to be on this earth. If you can combine that image with what you can do in civilian life, and it can be many things, doesn't have to be just one, you begin to see that you are an amazing leader. You can lift up your family, your friends, you two guys on the podcast, me. You can make an enormous difference in your community and country. Suddenly, every veteran's journey is the hero's journey. All of these tales become understandable as epic tales with tremendous courage and nobility and sacrifice. And suddenly, very painful, deep scars become badges of tremendous honor from having served others. This is a way of seeing inspiring stories everywhere. So this is one way of thinking about refinding purpose.
Okay.
It took a while for me to unpack it because there's a lot there. This is available to everyone, veteran, spouse, child, non-veteran. I think that there is a substantial chapter on how to find a job. And there's a lot there. But let me start by saying, as many wise veterans told us, veterans getting out are not done the justice of being told how difficult it is to make this transition. We love our government, we love our country, but the TAP programs that are run by the DOD and the VA and the Department of Labor are incredibly inadequate. We think we can make a difference there. The rush for veterans to get jobs is an enormous mistake. Here's the proof of that. By the way, that's pretty darn human. But here's the proof of that. Within the first year, 44% of veterans changed their jobs. By the end of year 2, it's 80%. That is an enormous turnover. As someone that studies companies, it's a massive failure. There are enormous turnover and retraining costs. There's loss of productivity. You actually commissioned a study, a research paper to study it from the side of the veteran and his or her family. It's a failure. Oftentimes, and this is a little bit of respect and tough love for all of us. I have suffered from this. There's at times a rush to get a job. I want to go make some money, chasing a shiny penny. Pretty darn human. For the veteran, finding a company where they feel comfortable, where their cultural values, their system are aligned is incredibly important. Finding a company to work at where you can have a mentor, veteran or not, but oftentimes veteran, is absolutely essential. I've led a very lucky and I would say privileged life. But even for me, getting out of college, if I didn't have mentors, I would have fallen off the straight and narrow path 6 or 7 times. I would have been a basket case. Everybody in life needs guides and mentors. This is particularly true when someone leaves the separate parallel universe of our military and goes into the world of the workforce. There's other components of this, and I've mentioned the chapter on spouses and children. These are the essential components of our book. These are some of the insights that we have distilled down. So, Jake, you can tell me whether I hit 10 or not.
We've got be prepared, teamwork with your spouse, frameworks for reintegration, recognizing the visible and invisible wounds of war, find a new purpose, get a guide or mentor, and we've got a couple questions.
Fire away.
All right. At Vet Support Network, Alex, what inspired you to focus your career on advocating for veterans and their families despite not having a military background? I know you touched on it a little, but maybe they didn't hear it.
Yeah. I've got 2 boys. I've raised them after my late wife passed away, and they have been my inspiration for many years. The woman, the love of my life, has also been a tremendous inspiration. When my older son joined the military, 2 things happened inside of me. First, I recognized that I had wanted to serve a few times, and I never had that honor. This was a time I thought I need to actually step up and do something about it to make a contribution. Plain and simple. The second thing is what I tried to summarize at the beginning of this podcast, which is I wanted my older son to have a memo for when he gets out, because I'm probably not going to be here. And that turned into, with Rob, my co-author, given his devotion.
He just got in, so I'm going to bring him in. If you want to hang out 1 second. Okay. Good evening, Rob.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, Rob.
Welcome.
Sorry I'm a little late there, wrestling practice, but how are you?
Good. You?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the chance to speak.
So I'll just bring you up to speed real quick. So I just did a very verbose you can tell me it's normal course for me. Summary of the book. The chapters are main insights, and I'm in the middle or finishing, I hope, a question from an audience member that says, given that I'm a civilian, what got me into this? And I was hopefully just done summarizing my answer.
Okay, great.
If you guys forgive me, if you don't mind, I think it'd be valuable to let Rob give a sense of his background. I gave a little bit, but I think given that this is a topic for veterans and that we have a very unique military-civilian partnership, I think it'd be great if you don't mind. Just guys, I'm acting like I'm the podcast host. Forgive me.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
You just took over. That's good.
We're stepping in here, guys.
Rob, we covered a little bit of your bio, but just start from wherever you want to start and bring us up to speed on who you are and why you're here.
Sure. Well, again, thank you. And thank you for your listeners. So if you've covered most of the bio, it's, the wave tops are, you came out of the Naval Academy, did 9 years active duty, 7 deployments, decided to get out 2013 after 9 years, went through a veterans integration program at Goldman Sachs for about 2.5 years, went back, did a master's at that time. From there, had a bunch of entrepreneurship attempts, executive leadership positions. And I met Alex when we were both working at the same private equity shop. Alex, as I was helping his son, to reciprocate, kind of was helping me understand debt credit markets and kind of my new role in private equity with a non-traditional background in investment banking. And that started many conversations of what it was like to come back from combat, to try to reintegrate. And I was very honest with Alex at that time. I kind of finished 2 structured programs, and then I found a Vietnam era psychiatrist that kind of helped me pull all this together. Been helping combat vets for about 40 years. So having just come off that, conversations with Alex, and then Alex taking the step back and say, Rob, there's just so many universal themes between our life, from success and failures, all the clues that are left behind, the grief, the hardships, the life transitions, the trauma, the tragedy. He's like, if you're already helping veterans off to the side, 10 to 12 a year, folks that were tracking me down on LinkedIn, like, why don't we memorialize this, or would you help me memorialize some of this in a memo to my son? And that grew through conversations into what we have today.
Okay.
That was a real quick recap. Yeah.
Hey, that's good to go. And I'll agree with both of you. Having, I did 25 years myself, and that day that I walked in and got my blue ID card, I walked out and it was like, okay, what now? I mean, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but not really. And, I can imagine what it would be for a younger soldier that, doesn't have military retirement to fall back on or anything like that. And I can just imagine how hard that was. And we had another question come in, Alex, for you. And it was, after 5 years of research and interviews for your field manual, what surprised you the most as a civilian about the challenges that veterans face during their transitions?
It's a great question. I think 2 things. I think in the way Rob referred to a moment ago, I don't claim I'm special, but I think that I sensed a shared, if you will, a shared sense of humanity that I saw between the civilians I know who have gone through life transitions, recuperated from loss and had to grow from it, didn't have a choice, and the comparable experience of veterans, just in the way Rob said.
Mm-hmm.
So I view this as this enlarged my sense of our common humanity. The second thing is, as I mentioned, we love our country and we are devoted to our government.
Mm-hmm.
but we have a government that in no way, at least historically, has really been able to handle these challenges. Now is a unique time in our history, which makes this second point, I think, incredibly important. And we refer to it as a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm because as the 20 years wars have ended, however disastrously our government handled the exit from Afghanistan, media coverage, public awareness, public sensitivity to veterans and their transition and what they're facing is declining. The media, except for a few conservative sources, doesn't care. At the same time, we're at a historic high in the number of veterans alive today, 22 million, 15 million spouses and family members, 250,000 getting out every year. These are historically high numbers. The existing TAP programs of the branches, with respect, are grossly inadequate. The nature of these problems is just too big for government. We were really taken aback in thinking about this second point by what General Washington said at one of his farewell ceremonies as commander-in-chief. He said, "A country will be judged by how it treats its veterans." We have a ways to go. And we can't depend on the government. We have to do it. It's you and us and your listeners. This is the second point.
All right. And I'll mention it again while we're on here. The book is Warrior to Civilian, and it is a field manual that can help your transition. I urge you to, if you're a veteran, go on Amazon, check it out. If you're a spouse that's listening, get it for your loved one. And I know as soon as we get off here, I'm going to check it out. And we got another question. These guys are burning us up with questions.
Yep. At Jeremy 0311, during your research, there have been amazing upgrades in the transition programs with internships and career skills. Did you find any of this in your study?
We did. You talking about if referring to Skill Bridge or something like so? TAPS is still the 3-day course, I believe. VA owns 1 day. DoD owns 2. I think there could be a lot done from there. We know that some military installations, they're only getting a 50% participation for a mandatory course. I don't know how that works, but that's what's happening. So people, if you look at Skill Bridge, the last few years, they've really tampered that back down on that program. So it used to be you apply to it, you get the 6 months, and you had to be within a certain radius to go. Because of the shortfalls we were having in the stop loss gaps, it was now getting very specific with down to which service and almost down to which MOS or career field for anybody else listening, if they were going to even allow it. And then they even divided it further down between enlisted and officers. So it's gone through a lot of iterations and changes. The exact statistics of how many people have actually used it since I think 2010, 2011, since inception, is actually strikingly low. A lot of people did not take more advantage of it. So I hope that answered the question. But we did consider that, and we do reference it in the book.
If I could add to it, Rob listed the most important points, but if I could add to it, what we have also found in our study of companies is that very few companies, 7% of the companies in our country have any kind of veterans program. Of the Fortune 500, 40% do not. Of those that do have programs, some of them are very effective. They're all well-intended, and some of them are not effective. There are ways to increase the effectiveness and upgrade these things. And there's probably 10 reasons or things to focus on to make them stronger. That goes way beyond the question, but a lot can be done by private industry.
Okay. Here where I'm at right now at Fort Campbell, I know that they have implemented, it's a 90-day internship program, and a lot of the local businesses and stuff, you go down to some of the retail businesses and whatever, and I ran into an Army warrant officer. He was a pilot ran into him at a tractor supply company, and he had on his red vest and he was running around doing stuff. And so, what are you doing here? I said, and he says, I'm on an internship. And he said, for 90 days, he said, this is my place of business, and they're teaching me management skills. Mm-hmm. And if I want to hire on here, if they think I'm good enough, they can. And so we had an intern that worked for us that ended up going to a different base and applying for a job. And that was the deciding factor in him getting his job, was he went through one of these internship programs. So I think that's one of the good things that's happening. I don't know if the other services are doing this or not. I know that the Army on Fort Campbell is doing it, and I've seen a couple successes out of it. I cannot quote any figures on it, but I think it's a pretty good deal.
That sounds like a good deal.
Well, it sounds really good, but you have to get more businesses to want to do that. Not just like the tractor supply. You have 80,000.
Well, that's just one that I brought up because I knew of that one. But the way I look at it, these businesses, they're getting free labor for 90 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I've been in retail for over 30 years, and I don't think I've worked for a company that has a program like that. I've worked for a few companies, so.
We should dig into this just for 2 minutes. Veterans as a group, including their spouses, are a proven segment of the workforce. It's not like hiring folks for political reasons or because you have to enlarge your source of talent. Veterans and their spouses bring skills and life experience that others don't have. Veterans have in their life experience and their talents leadership skills, a bias for action, responsibility and accountability, problem solving, 5 other traits. Now, mind you, you can't just take a veteran, put them in a dark room and expect them to survive and do well. There needs to be training and integration. Mm-hmm. But if you do that, you minimize these hidden costs of turnover, and you radically increase productivity and collaboration. From a company's perspective, profitability. It's binary. And the companies that are smart enough to see it do well by themselves and do good in the community. And frankly, their customers and clients become extremely loyal. So this is binary. Companies that do this well succeed and do all the right things and get the benefits. And those that don't have hidden costs and don't get it.
Okay. We got more questions.
Okay. All right.
At Muddy Water Dock, having witnessed a company of active duty for the last 3 years and a constant flux of soldiers, I can say wholeheartedly, soldiers in this company are utilizing career skill program internships and also certification programs. Is it your belief it is not happening across the board?
I know it's not in the Navy. I know some of these programs have been changed or dialed back some. I think it was shortfalls on on ships. More probably, I don't know about the Marine Corps, and I think the Air Force internship. Oh, was that the bottom of the question, or was that something else?
It might have been.
Oh, is it your belief? Okay.
Yeah, it was just the bottom of the question.
That was the bottom of the question, yeah.
But I mean, so these programs sound great. The one thing I would ask is, does it still have the geographic restrictions on it, staying close to the base? Because finding a job around Fort Campbell, great. But what about that person that wants to go into real estate, investment banking, pharmaceutical sales, medical sales? Those regions a little bit more restrictive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Completely understand that.
Yeah. Any more? Well, go ahead, please.
I was say had another question for you pop up, Rob.
Okay.
From Tactical Leader X, Rob, what lessons from your time as a Navy SEAL has shaped your leadership style in the business world?
It probably wasn't. It was something we always hear in the military, being adaptable or something like that. But when I finally took some leadership tests at one of the public companies that I worked for doing tech consulting, they came back and they said, Rob, this is very interesting. You test so low on emotional range. And I was like, yeah, that's about right. I've heard people say that from the military, but like you're off the charts versatility, one of the highest scores we've seen. So I would say from my time in the teams that learn over here, just the versatility that I have to go from one problem set to the next problem set it pays massive dividends. And I've seen people get fixated on an interest rate and not be able to function for the rest of like 2-3 hours because they were so upset that they lost a deal over 0.5 point on an interest rate. I am further down the road. I'm already thinking about the next 2 to 3 questions. The ability to prioritize and execute. We have all these things that happen to us in combat in our careers, just the regular military training exercises, the ability just to prioritize what are the things I need to be deciding on and acting on. That has been huge. Again, I go back to my first example, the stagnation that I see, people just not being able to execute. People have great ideas in business. They have great financial models, great business plans, great graphics. Everything looks pretty. Some of them don't know how to pick the phone up and talk to someone to get something done.
Okay.
That is a massive skill set that we bring. It's just the point as we moved up through the ranks, just to being able to execute and go get something done. Something else from the SEAL teams, and I'll say this, just please carry this forward, just massive humility. It took me a while to learn that, I can always tell myself and I can always benchmark in my mind, just keep carrying the rucksack, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you have to have this humility that this is new terrain. And as a friend of mine and Alex, who contributed the book, we all wore black belts within the service. We all became subject matter experts of what we did. When we step out, we go to a new career field, and it's day one, week one, we have to have the humility that we're wearing a white belt again. No matter how much time and grade or service, we have to understand that this is a second career. What I've done in the past, I will soon gain my black belt again. Mm-hmm. But right now, I'm in complete receive mode. I just teach me everything and just ask questions. So I'd say great humility.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We got time for one more question here. It came from the Hero's Journey podcast, and it's for both of you. And how does the Hero's Journey LLC empower veterans to rediscover their sense of purpose after leaving the military?
Alex, you want to start, and then I can.
Yeah, sure. First of all, there's not one way to do it. There's many ways to do it. We believe our book provides a guide or a field manual for that. When it comes, that's our book. When it comes to our company, which is called Hero's Journey LLC, we provide coaching and consulting to individuals, to groups, certainly to companies. A key component of that work is to have discussion and work sessions, if you will, about the many ways veterans and spouses can refine purpose. It goes to certain core values and sense of why you're here. How are you going to pay your rent as a human on earth? That's a question sometimes that is viewed as kind of dramatic, but these discussions lead to the many ways that people have moments of reflection and often find their sense of purpose, or at least get on that journey in a more self-reflective and powerful way.
Okay.
Two-part answer. It's our book and our consulting and coaching services.
Okay. You got anything to add to that, Rob?
Alex pretty much summed it up. It's a multifaceted approach that we take, and we look at both sides. And that we look at my military service, the connective tissue here, and we look at Alex's, 35, almost 40 years experience in investment banking and law, and working as a corporate attorney. So seeing many different companies on the merger acquisition piece and the corporate side. putting those two combined, it's a pretty compelling discipline that we bring to look at this. So, yeah.
All right. Hey, gentlemen, this hour has went by very, very quickly.
Yep.
And we have a question that we ask of our guests, and I'll ask it for both of you. So real quick, I am going to need 3 non-negotiables that you two do without fail every morning to make your day, to make each day a better day.
It's real simple.
Alex was ready to go right away. he was ready to jump.
Because I had so failed at this for so long, I made an effort to improve on myself. The first thing I do is, and I ain't perfect about this, and this sounds like a big fat old cliche, so forgive me, but it's real clear and real simple. I think about the things before I get my lazy butt out of bed that I am grateful for.
Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2, I get my body moving. I go for a run. I work out. I do something. Could be 10 minutes. I try and hit the gym or do something. Getting your juices flowing is incredibly important. The third thing I do, and thank God my sons aren't listening because they'd roll their eyes at me if I say this out loud, is I try and think about the ways that my opportunities in my missions in life, and this is our professional mission, are not limited by anything I wake up with. I try and think about, and this is hard to do, I try and think about the ways that Rob and I created this book and have, we believe, an opportunity to serve those who have stood on the wall for us. And with that comes an unlimited sense of opportunity. And I find that refreshing because I think all of us wake up with the tendency for negativity or limitation or frustration at the difficult stuff or the crap from yesterday. I ain't perfect, but these are the 3 things I try and do.
All right. Okay, Rob.
Yeah, I'm up. I wake up from the humility piece, but I phrase it a little bit different for everybody. I wake up that I have nothing to prove, but everything to prove. And
okay.
I think a lot of that goes to the second piece of the many friends that I've lost in combat. So a lot of that is living a purposeful life for their sacrifice. And then I have to, I think, kind of like, I think what Alex was talking about is I wake up every day and make sure that my son has that same purpose. So educating him. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, because the children are our future.
Yeah.
The children are our future. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much. I'm definitely going to get on there and get that book. I've been out for a while, but I tell you what, any education on this stuff is bound to help out. I thank you both for coming on here, and listeners, thank you again for all the great questions. You're outdoing yourselves every week, and I'm liking it. It's
more and more every week.
More and more every week. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And Misfit Nation, until next time, we love you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
This is a message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Got a question about your VA benefits, healthcare, or eligibility? Go to va.gov, where you can access a new interactive chatbot to ask questions 24/7. One can still browse va.gov for information, but you can now ask specific questions to the chatbot, like what's the PACT Act? How do I apply for disability benefits? What's my claim status? You can access the new feature through va.gov's Contact Us page. Then click on the Start Chat button. The chatbot will continue to improve veterans' access to information about the benefits and services they've earned. This is one way VA is offering seamless and secure access to its online resources.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.